First song is written by Swami Kriyananda entitled Walk Like a Man, and for the feminists and those who relate that way, please don't take offense at the limitations of our English language. So please, when you hear the word man, accept the fact that it's the best that we can do to describe the state of everyone and the state of our true divine self.
Walk like a man, even though you walk alone. Why court approval once the road is known? Let come who will, but if they all turn home, the goal still awaits you.
Commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. This is week 18. Perfection is self-transcendence. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. We begin this week with a passage from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 5. Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. If ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the tax collectors the same? And if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even pagans so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. This teaching is a continuation of last week's lesson. To love all equally is possible only by seeing God everywhere, in others as well as in oneself. See whatever comes to you unasked for as a manifestation of His will. Be grateful for the pains you experience, for they are healing strokes of His love. Sometimes healing is effected only by strong measures, but His love for you is manifested in the very attempt to heal. Strive always to be impersonal, as though whatever happens to you were happening to someone else. Persecution gives us the supreme opportunity to deny the thought, this is happening to me, and to affirm our inner freedom from the thought of ego. Don't allow the negative perceptions of others to become your own self-definition. Seek God. This is the true goal of life, though how difficult to cling to in the midst of hatred, spite, and persecution. The Bhagavad Gita tells us in the 7th chapter, out of thousands, one strives for spiritual attainment, and out of many blessed truth seekers who strive assiduously to reach me, one perhaps perceives me as I am. O truth seeker, be one among all those thousands who seeks the supreme goal. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
It's good to be here. It's good to be here yesterday. It's good to be here today. And I'm going to share with you an account of somebody who's been very inspiring on my own path, a man named John Tenemer. I don't know, have any of you heard of John Tenemer? Interesting. Well, I'll tell you how I discovered him. I was taking a seclusion some years ago, and I was in Swami Kriyananda's apartment in Ananda Village, and I was looking through his bookcase. And I found this book entitled, I Was a Monk. I mean, a book that Swami would be attracted to, obviously. But I opened it up, and I began reading it, and I found it very inspiring. Very interesting, very inspiring. When I went back to Ananda Village, I mentioned it to my friend Asha Praver. I said, I found this book, I Was a Monk. She said, oh yes, John Tenemer. Well, you know, so good. Well, so I'm going to share many of the statements today, many of the insights that I've gained from reading his book. And I'm using notes because I don't want to forget anything. It's been a long weekend. And also because I'm telling as much of the story as I can through his own words. I will be quoting what he wrote. Now, I'm going to preface my talk by sharing with you what Swami wrote about integrity, because I think if there's one word I would apply to John Tenemer, it's that word, integrity. And he writes that, and we were talking about integrity yesterday in the context of principles of magnetism. But Swami gives integrity, we kind of know means honesty and truthfulness plus something beyond that. But what Swami has done, when he writes about integrity, he's given us that something else beyond honesty and truthfulness that integrity consists of. And that something else is what we see in John in the way he lived his life. And Swami writes that integrity implies much more than honesty and truthfulness. It involves the full integration of your whole being with your higher aspirations and beliefs. Integrity, he says, thus includes fearlessness, kindness, inner relaxation, cheerful acceptance of whatever comes. And if there was a word that really describes John Tenemer, who I will be talking to you about right now, it's that integrity. A man who lived his beliefs to the utmost. Now, let me just give you a little background on who he was. He passed away in, I think it was 1984, or 74. But he was a rare individual, and because he was brilliant, and he was also humble, and he was very deeply committed to his life as a monk. You know, he was the kind of man that anyone would single out in an organization. And perhaps fortunately, maybe unfortunately, he was singled out by his superiors right away. And immediately he began to be promoted to higher and higher positions in the monastic order, which ultimately became a bit of a challenge for him. But through his 25 years in the order, he joined the Passionist order. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. I have never heard of them. Passionist? You're saying that you've heard of them? Well, they're headquartered in Missouri, I think. And he chose that order small because it was austere. He wanted something that was demanding. He didn't want to compromise any aspect of what it means to be a monk. And so that's where he began. Now, he lived for different times in the United States, usually in Missouri. When he wasn't in the United States, he was in Rome. And for the 25 years that he was a monk, he was back and forth between the United States and Rome, and you will understand why in a few minutes. But the point I wanted to mention, just to underscore the theme of his life, walk like a man, is that he put God first, always. There was no compromise there. And he put God's will first, and there was no compromise there. And he reached a point where he unmistakably knew what God's will was for him. So let me talk about his first year in the monastery. Many of the Catholic mystics practice what they call mental prayer. But the way they describe it, it's very similar to our meditation. And during the first year, now I think he was 18 years old when he entered the monastery. During the first year of his novitiate, I think it's called novitiate, he practiced mental prayer. And almost immediately he felt a very strong presence of God with him. He says, God walked with me, holding my hand through the entire 3 years of my period of study and qualified for the becoming a monk. He was there, and he experienced it as an awakening. It wasn't anything that was there it is. It was an awakening. He knew it was who it was. He knew it was something to be cherished, and he did cherish it. But there it was for that entire 3 years. He felt with him practically at all moments the presence of God. Now, thinking back to our own beginnings on the spiritual path, how many of us could say we had a 3-year romance with the divine in any way comparable to that? Well, that gives you a glimpse of who he was and who he would become. Now, he said, here, I'll give you his writings. His heart was in silent communion. It was as if my very inmost essence would pour itself out upon this being who walked with me, whom I felt as my God and my Creator. A great and vibrant peace descended upon me, and I felt full to joy, full to overflowing with joy. It would not matter had I been tortured or even burned alive. That says a lot about what he was feeling 3 years into the spiritual life. It would not matter if I had been tortured or burned alive. After 3 years, he took his vows and he was ordained as a priest, and he began to teach theology in the headquarters in Missouri. Now, after 4 years in the United States, he was promoted to 4 years now. He's been a monk 4 years. He was promoted as the director of the International College in Rome, where which oversees the teaching. He was overseeing the teaching of Scripture and theology. Now, one of the things that happened, it was a great honor, and that goes without saying, but one of the things that happened in Rome, it often happens in spiritual organizations, they take the best people and they keep them really busy. And what suffers when that happens? Well, communion. And when communion suffers, then there's always the risk of attunement suffering. Well, mental prayer, he was able to engage in mental prayer. He describes it as a kind of meditation. He says it was a practice engaged in by Teresa of Avila, by St. John of the Cross, who were role models for him. But he realized that the more he got involved in these outward responsibilities, the more there was a slight erosion of that uplifted feeling and of that joy he was feeling. But so far so good. He's hanging in there. He has not yet become a monk. I was a monk. He hadn't reached that point. We're telling you the ending before you understand why. After 5 years, John returned to America, and he was served as the head of the monastery in Missouri. Again, more administrative responsibilities, less time for mental prayer. Then, in 1914, he was elected to the office they call a consultator general. The way Rome is organized, apparently, the heads of each international monastery serve as advisors to the Pope. And the head of each monastery has his own advisors. Well, John became an advisor at that point to the head of the Passionist monastery. Now, after he was a few years in this new position, he became ill from overwork. And because not only was he serving as a consultor to the head of the monastery in Rome, he was serving as father confessor to an organization of nuns. He was hearing confessions on a regular basis and doing a host of other responsibilities which further decreased his time for mental prayer. But he became ill. He was doing so much outwardly, he became quite ill. And he was ordered by the doctors to do absolutely nothing. And he took it seriously. He describes himself as being in this balcony room in Switzerland in a sheepskin sleeping bag. And he was out on the terrace, and he said, I was in this chrysalis state for 3 months. Pretty much stayed there. And resting, regaining his strength. And he said, during this period, he allowed his mind the freedom to practice total immersion in mental prayer again. He says, as a result of this contemplation, I think he's off the balcony by now, but as a result of this contemplation, he said, suddenly he felt himself touching the heart of reality. Now, he says, all dimensions seemed to go, and a presence having no form, yet not abstract and lifeless, as were the ideas of the mind, but concrete and palpitating with realness, was with him all the time. He said, he did not allow himself to jump to the conclusion that his experience was per se a realization of the presence of God, but nonetheless he had the definite impression of the loss of his own personality into that of a larger consciousness, which we might call, you might call God. He said, we don't want to call it God, then on the way to God. And he realized then that this experience was a natural one and available to anyone. He didn't think himself as special as having entered in this. It was a form of samadhi that he entered into, obviously. Not the highest form, but in that sense of oneness. So the initial result of this experience was, well, the initial and the ongoing was profound. He said at that point, one of the characteristics of this monastic order is that they put a lot of emphasis on teaching and understanding and the mind. The first thing he discovered, he said, I lost all faith in the mind as a guide to truth. Now, here's what he's been doing all his teaching, philosophy. He lost all faith in the human mind as a guide to truth. That's really interesting. He says, this was the first loss of faith. Remember, he was a monk. In the power of the human mind to know truth about the ultimate. There's no way, he explained that, the human mind, the limited faculty of knowing that it is, can ever know the truth about the ultimate. He says this fundamental change in his outlook accelerated into the greatest illumination that had ever come upon him. And though it involved, he said, the unlearning, and this, I'll quote his words exactly, this fundamental change in me accelerated into the greatest illumination that ever came to me. Although it involved the unlearning of all I had ever learned, I was strangely happy. It was similar to what I had felt as a novice monk when I walked with God and felt God near. Now, that's one loss of faith. The mind cannot guide you to truth. We know this, don't we? We know this. We, as meditators, we know this. The second, he said, more formidable loss of his faith was the loss of faith in orthodox religion of whatever forms. There he was. He wasn't looking for this. Obviously, he's high up in this religious order. And look what's happening to him. He's losing faith in Orthodox religion of whatever form. Most of us have lost faith with Orthodox religion in whatever form are here. This is a good alternative. But this was in the early years of the 20th century. He didn't have that choice. You know, yoga wasn't there yet. But he said, it was this human part of faith that I lost on the mountaintop. He said, I there entered into knowledge that Jesus and God and man were far other and far greater and more beautiful than man could ever put into the words of creeds. Isn't that lovely? Far greater, far beautiful, more hearts than man, far other than man could ever put into the words of creeds. He says, now he gets really strong. I mean, he's not angry, but he's strong because he's seeing them. He later says, Roman Catholicism, excuse me if you've been Catholics, is perhaps the worst offender here. In terms of equating, he says, the revelation comes and you have a great seer. And then his revelation is put into terms of creeds. And the creeds are treated as a substitute for the revelation on penalty of excommunication. But it's not the same. So how can you take a revelation of a great seer and reduce it in any way? You can't. But he says that is the crime of religion. You take that great revelation, you reduce it to a creed, and you have to follow that creed under penalty of all kinds of penalties, or else. Especially when he says he attacks the Roman Catholic Church. Please, I hope this isn't offensive to anyone, but he does attack Rome. He doesn't attack. He just states the truth. And he said, the evil and sacrilege came from confusing this interpretation with the original revelation itself and treating it as equally sacred. Those are his words. He says, God and can't remember writing. Oh, God in heaven, he writes, are here right now to be lived in and engaged, did we but, listen to this, but this sounds very familiar, still our senses and our ideas, and allow that light and warmth of that reality to fill our being. You know, there's that chant we have, still your heart if you want to pray, still your mind. I mean, it's so reminiscent, his words, of things that we believe and things that we practice here on this path. He says, this is the true religion, when you still your heart and you still your mind and you go inside. And the illumination that you bring back is the only true faith. And we have only to recall the words, be still and know that I am God, to understand that it will never fit into human language. It's a powerful revelation. It will never fit into human language. He says, all sense of I is lost in all truly great experiences of higher consciousness, as has been testified countless times by the great mystics. All sense of I is gone. There's I everywhere. Samadhi. Sense of I is, you're everywhere. The egoic sense of I is lost in all experiences of higher consciousness. But as Yogananda puts, you're everywhere. I, everywhere. And how can there be any individual exclusive focus of that I? There can't be. So, now, you might imagine, he was maybe about a year, he was quite ill. He was about a year before he kind of left the balcony and started walking around in Switzerland. And he was getting better. I don't know, he must have been very, very depleted. Around that time, his fellow monks came up to visit him. And that was very interesting. The thing about it that's rather sad is that they loved one another. They were close. They had been together on that path for, in some instances, almost for many, many years. But they sensed a change in him when they came up. And he wasn't ready to talk about it initially, obviously. He was still processing it. And he tells an interesting story about his own security in that new understanding. There was an avalanche in the area when he was there, and he was out walking. After the avalanche had occurred, he saw the devastation, and many people had been caught on the avalanche and killed. And he said that something seized his heart right then, because the worst thing that could happen to a devout Catholic is to die without having the presence of a priest to absolve him. That is considered one of the most unfortunate experiences you can undergo. And here are these people. He said he just caught up for a minute because he thought that, and he kind of harked back to that early training he'd had. But then he realized, no, they were fine. But it just shows you the strength of those teachings in his own mind and in his heart. There was still a little resonance there. But he said his fellow monks became, and then he began to share little bits of what he was feeling with them, and they kept thinking, well, he'll come back to his senses. He'll drop this. And so they came up, they were kind of listening, looking to see if he, have you returned to your normal acceptance of the Church's teachings? And they went away and gave him a little more time. They really felt he would come around because they had nothing to compare his current reality with. They didn't understand it. But he said it was when they finally came and sort of put it to him, it's almost 2 years, John. You look like you've regained your health. When are you coming back? And so he said the only possible answer, and he finally made that answer to his brother monks. He said it was not within his power to change the course of life within his soul, the course of life that was now emerging within his soul. He says, it was though I had come to live in another country and had not yet learned its language. But he was not ready to go back under any circumstances. He said, I tried to explain to them that for me, the mental world in which they lived had become unreal, had lost its meaning. And the whole world of philosophy seems to me now have to do with the world of ideas and words only, and to fail to touch the heart of reality. Well, that was too much for them. And they just couldn't deal with it. They thought he had lost his mind. And they said, brother, we would just pray for you. And it was very painful for them because when you walk the path with people that you're close to, it's hard. But when he said he had lost faith even in philosophy, philosophy, how can you lose faith in philosophy? That was the essence of the Passionist path, philosophy. So at that point, he said they finally recognized, the brothers, that they would never ever again walk that path together. And he was encouraged then to write a short letter requesting his release from the order. And in due time, he got the letter saying you're released from your vows, you're released from your commitment to persevere until death. And there he was, 45 years old. 45-year-old child, as he describes it. He said, I needed to get some experience in the world. He went out on his own, and he made his way very well ultimately. He later married. He had 3 children, and he would often say, former monks make the best fathers. And now here's the point that really struck me when I first got my copy of the book and read the introduction. His modest home was a place where many famous people gathered. And among his visitors were Amelita Galacurci and her husband, Samuels. We know who she was, don't we? That was Yogananda's direct disciple. And she was a regular visitor to. The writer of the preface says many people came to warm their hearts in John's warmth. And he was that kind of person. He just people who tuned into who he was, he welcomed. They became part of his family. He had many disciples, obviously. Other famous people who came were Pearl Buck, Carl Menninger, you know. And he would say to friends, God is far more wonderful than we can ever know except in flashes. And life itself is more beautiful in reality than we can ever realize on this earth. So, he left his body, and we haven't heard from him since. One of the things I did once I found his book, I did this, I bought it for all my friends and gave it to them as gifts. In the meantime, I found myself left with only one copy, and it was all marked up. So I wrote away, I emailed Amazon, and there are copies still available if you're interested. It's a small paperback book. It's the first edition. There must have been lots of copies of that first edition, but the one I got was from a used bookstore, and it was just like new. So I have 2 copies now, one marked up and one unmarked up. But I'm happy to share with you John Tepper, because he's a person who lived our teachings without realizing he was living our teachings. And I think he's someone we would have been happy to walk hand in hand with. Look at him. God bless you.
Uses those words, still your mind if you want to pray, still your heart, still your soul, inspired by Swami Kriyananda's visit to the Temple of Isis in Egypt, where he received that blessing of the presence of the Divine Mother as Isis.
Still your mind if you want to pray. Send all cares far away. Sing that love's ever near. Isis comes, await the day. Isis comes, await the day. Mother comes, await the day.
Your mind if you want to pray. Send all cares far away. Sing that love's ever near. Isis comes, await the day. Isis comes, await the day. Mother comes, await the day.
Still your heart if you want to pray. Send all cares far away. Sing that love's ever near. Isis comes, await the day. Isis comes, await the day. Mother comes, await the day.
Your heart if you want to pray. Send all cares far away. Sing that love's ever near. Isis comes, await the day. Isis comes, await the day. Mother comes, await the Still your soul if you want to
Still
pray.
your soul if you want to pray.